Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm Ben Backus.
And I'm Kevin Paulin, and welcome to the Falling Up Podcast, where we have discussions about turning obstacles into opportunities. And on today's show, we have the pleasure of being joined by Miss Rebekah Moore.
Rebekah is the program director for Arts Council of Greater New Haven. Mm-hmm. And I really, I have fun with this one.
Oh, yeah. Rebekah is a member of one of my favorite podcasts. My first podcast appearance with the team. So shout out to them. And she's a guest I've been looking forward to, and she did not disappoint.
No, I am kind of leave the conversation looking at art in a very different way and just having a greater appreciation for all the things that make up art and the role it can have in truly not only empowering but connecting communities.
Well said. So with that, welcome to the Falling Up Podcast.
Yeah, so I am Rebekah Moore, Beck Easy, Beck, whichever aspect of my life you consider me, that's what you'll call me. I'm a program director for the Arts Council of Greater New Haven, New Haven native, just always about community, building bridges, connecting people to the resources and different things. I'm out here in these streets just making sure that everybody wins.
We're all about winning here.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
I think a good starting point for me is I actually am not familiar with the Arts Council of Greater New Haven. Can you
a lot of people aren't. So that's one of my main goals within position. But Arts Council of Greater New Haven has been around since 1964. And we, like I said, we service the Greater New Haven. So that's Meriden, Branford, Wallingford, you name it. And we are a resource for artists. So we are trying to steer away from the starving artist and more of a thriving artist. So super helpful with artists. Like I said, we have a bunch of resources. If you go on our website, we have creative careers. All different types of arts organizations will come on our page and list job postings, different grants. We actually got $500,000 from the National Endowment of Arts, federal funding. 255 of that we actually gave to 38 nonprofits last week. Everybody that applied was able to get funding between $3,000 and $15,000. We also are a resource, so a lot of artists were saying to us, like, listen, trying to pay $600 for a space, I'll have to sell 2 paintings just to break even for the venue. Yep. We're not talking about promotion and, food and wine, because, everybody likes to sip while they're at the paint show. So we actually just opened up a free space called the Sandbox. It opened April 1st, and it's free for all Arts Council members. Membership is free. So if you want to come and rehearse, like we have a drummer's like, listen, I'm going to get kicked out of my apartment if I keep practicing at home. He comes and rehearse. We have another band that rehearses as well. Poetry nights, paint and sips, anything like that. You can do that free of charge. The venue is free. So that's one less burden that you have to worry about. So we just opened that up. We also have a directory called Culturalist. So a lot of times we'll get emails like, I'm looking for artists. Here goes a call for artists. We're paying people to, come do this, that, and the third. We can send them directly to that directory. It's free to sign up. It's literally like an Instagram for artists. So we have that. And then anytime anybody needs anything, like you have an idea and it's dope and you need funding, you come, you send us a proposal, we try to make it happen.
So art is this, and all of that is truly incredible. Art is such a subjective term, and I think it encompasses so much.
Absolutely.
What is art?
Art is you being able to express and create. So back in 2018, because I didn't know what Arts Council was either, born and raised in New Haven, Connecticut, and it's literally like 5 minutes away from my house. Never heard of it. Yeah. Because, back in the day, it was always the white man, older, it's only music, theater, and dance. That's what was art, and like that was it, back in the day. So shout out to Daniel Fitzmaurice, which is our past executive director. He actually has went on to Americans for the Arts as a chief of staff. But within his 5 years at Arts Council, he has really tried to shift what we consider art. So when 2018, 2019, I was asked to speak at CT Arts Day, and I'm like, oh, we're not artists. and Adrienne Jefferson, who is the executive director at the city for the Cultural Affairs Department, she was like, you express yourself, right? I'm like, well, yeah. All right, so that's art. And I'm like, oh, okay. Like, I didn't see myself as an artist until they were like, no, that is art. So we're trying to change what art is for people, or what people think art is. And the ageism within art too, right? You think you have to go to college, or you have to get a degree within the arts to actually be an artist. Like, no, we just paid an 11-year-old for their painting so that we can make postcards. So at any age, as a matter of fact, I just got an email. And it's like, oh, we're having a kids competition. The winner gets a certificate and their picture framed. And I emailed them. I'm like, you should add a financial compensation to this. Because if we start them at a young age, knowing what their art is worth, when they get older, they won't have that problem. Because 9 times out of 10, actually 10 times out of 10, any artist that you know is underpaying themselves.
Right.
Always.
Yeah.
So I actually emailed them like, hey, like, this is great. I'll be sure to share it. But by the way, you should add a compensation to this. Because they need McDonald's and happy meal money. So,
That's empowerment too.
Yeah. Doing things like that is a blessing. Speaking out. And our main goal right now with partnership with the city, like I said, the Cultural Affairs Department, is our cultural equity plan. It's the first plan in New Haven, the first plan in Connecticut, and it's literally a playbook of how we can make the arts equitable for all. So for example, if you have a grant and this organization is a 45-page grant, 9 times out of 10, you're going to look at it and be like, I'm not filling this out. We don't have the resources to pay a grant writer to fill that out for us to get that funded. We don't even know what nonprofits are. Right? So how do we change the narrative for that? So a lot of our grants is literally like a Google form. Plain, straight to the point. What are you doing? Who you are? And that's it. Because that's one of the reasons why we can't get the funding. We can't get the resources. We don't even know about these certain things, So
Yeah.
I mean, there's such a barrier to grants in general because they are so complex and so complicated. And if you don't have, I know someone like myself, and even looking at one, right, it can be so overwhelming that it's like, oh, fetal position, give up. Yeah. I'm going to stop before I even try. So that really allows for that equal opportunity. To go back for a minute, I don't know if I've heard it so kind of eloquently and simply put, express and create the idea of art. So when it comes to expressing and creating, what is that line where, hey, I'm expressing myself? When does that turn into a creation?
I think when you consider it a masterpiece, like, right, we're always creating. You can step outside right now and the rain by itself, the different ways it drops, or how it affects the leaves, like that's art. Art is all around us. So I think it's what you find is, okay, I'm finished with this. And some artists, they'll work months and sometimes years on different masterpieces until they could say, all right, this is complete.
So what got you into this industry?
I mean, and it's crazy because I went to school. My bachelor's is in psychology. I worked in the healthcare field for 13 years. I never even thought that I would be in a job like this. It wasn't until we started podcasting in 2018, the Team Podcast. We podcast for 3.5 years. And I was actually an artist being supported by the Arts Council. Another resource that we give is fiscal sponsorship. So a lot of times we made our podcast at LLC, but 9 times out of 10, there's many podcasts that aren't even making themselves a business. But we did. So you're limited on what funding you could get because a lot of the funding is for nonprofits. So Arts Council has a fiscal sponsorship program where you sign up for them and you can use their tax ID as a nonprofit, and they will fiscally sponsor you to be able to get those funds to kind of make you more accessible to those resources like we spoke, right? So we That's were fiscal. Awesome. Yeah. It's really dope. It's really simple too. 3 resume letters. What's your mission of the funding? Like, where will it go? And that's it. So we were fiscally sponsored by the Arts Council. They're actually the ones that gave us the REACH grant, which is the Race Equity. Let me check it. It's so many. We have so many acronyms for all. We got the resiliency grants, but anyway, it's the REACH grant, and it's for community projects, up to $45,000 within 2 years. And so I'm like, I'm gonna write this. I'm gonna fill this out. And like I said, it wasn't completely simple. Like, oh, that's great. You do have to do some work, but it wasn't as hard as a normal grant. and we got approved for it, and we've been funded to be able to do the Hill House High School grant podcast along with PodIn New Haven. That's what we're funded for. We teach high school students social media marketing, executive producing, how to host properly and not talk over each other, videography and audio. And then now, knowing those skill sets, they can go to a business and say, listen, let me run your social media for X amount, a week. And it looks great on their resume, right? At a young age, already knowing those skills. I always tell them, like, the CEO of Wendy's isn't on Twitter tweeting people back. They have people hired to do this stuff. And the thing is, the youth are already doing it. They're already hip to TikTok. And TikTok is art, right? That's dance and music and theater all in one app. So just... Damn,
true.
Yeah.
Damn, yeah.
Every TikTok dance is a dance. Yeah. And it got to come with music.
Facts.
And you got to, act like you're doing X, Y, and Z. But yes, we got the REACH grant. And then after we got the REACH grant, I seen that they had a program director position. And I'm like, all right, well, I'm already doing program because I was doing the youth with the podcast. We were doing a bunch of programs in between that as well. I'm like, I'm going to just go for it. Went for it. They interviewed me, and then here I am. So it's great to have been an artist supported by the Arts Council, and then be the one that is actually supporting artists.
Right.
And being, like I said, I'm born and raised in New Haven. I know people that are already doing the creative things now. So it's a blessing to be able to say, listen, let me help you out. This is how you go about it. This is how you do your business taxes. This is how you properly charge. When someone walks up to you, if somebody walks up to you right now and says, I want to give you $500,000 for your business, what do? You should know your elevator pitch verbatim. Like when we were podcasting, oh yeah, we're the group chat in podcast form.
Right.
Automatic. It's automatic.
Yeah, it's really interesting how you mentioned so many of the youth are on these social media apps, and how it's clear that these are forms of art and people are getting compensated for these forms, but so few people know how to make that happen. Right. So when you reached out for this grant, was this something that you had in mind? Like, we really want to target and create this program to help empower the youth and help get them in. And what originally motivated you to pick that? And just really drove you to, that's a really lofty goal, right?
Yeah. So we actually, we had it already in our mind as just a summer program, like an 8-week program. We're going to teach these kids and then we'll be good. Once we got the REACH grant, we're like, all right, this has to be a full year program. So how do we change this? Youth has always been a passion for not only myself, but Joanne as well, the co-owner of the Teen Podcast. She's actually a teacher. So we've always had, like, my niece and my nephew, like when we have an event, we're like, look, we need you to work the door. We need you to do this. And a lot of people are coming to us like, I really want to learn, even adults. Like, I really want to learn about podcasting. Like, how do I get into it? Like I said, we started in 2018 before people even knew really what podcast was, especially here in Connecticut. Yeah. Like, a lot of our listeners and fan base and the people that we interacted on like Twitter and social media were out of state. Like Canada, Virginia, Houston, all other areas. So even in Connecticut, it's like, how do I even download this? So to see the evolution of podcasting now, it's like, whoa, like, we were definitely before our time.
No doubt.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so many benefits to podcasting.
Absolutely.
Outside of any business or monetary gain, right? The idea, how do you accurately and articulately get a thought across? Yeah. How do you have a long form conversation and exchange information? I think even since we've been doing this, my everyday interactions are feel like I'm far more thoughtful and trying to choose my words meaningfully, right?
Yeah.
Which then slows things down, and I find I'm in less confrontations, or I'm able to better truly get my ideas across to people.
And you'll be out and about like, what, this is actually an episode. Right? Yeah. We used to always, I'm like, look, we done had a podcast episode just with normal conversations at the bar or something like that. But it's very, and it's therapy, right? Like, we've had literally therapy sessions on air. When our friend passed away, and how do we deal with grief, and what is grief? What are the different levels of grief? We've had a therapist come and be a moderator when things weren't too great in our friendship. And I think those episodes were like the ones that we got like the most listens, and people writing us like, thank you for that. Because of course we're like a group of friends. We don't want, it's not all peachy keen and all cuckoo ha ha he. Like there's real stuff that happens within friendships. So when we did that episode, at first we were like, are we really going to do this? Like, let's do it. And we did. And we were grateful that we did it, because you have to have therapy and you have to work on friendship just as much as you work with your relationship with your husband or your wife, right, or with your family. Like friendship is just as important. So having that, it was a blessing. So yeah, podcasting is therapeutic for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. We used to record in another room in here. Yeah. Big room, lights, cameras. And not to say we didn't have good podcasts, because we did. But shout out to Ryan Redcheeks. Our producer wasn't able to come as much. So we started doing it just the audio.
That's it.
And once we came into this room,
it's more authentic.
Therapy, guests crying, me me holding back, you know what I'm saying? Like,
because when you're in that big room with the lights and stuff, it's like you're performing, right? Yeah. When you're in a space like this, you can be you can talk how you talk, with no performing type of aspect to it.
Yeah, you start to forget. You know what I'm saying? You forget until you want to drink something, and then you're all bumping the mic. Yeah. Other than that, though, you start to...
You just release it.
So you mentioned originally doing, getting a degree in psychology and having this kind of sense of wanting to work with the youth and give back. I'm just completely projecting here and saying I got into my field because of past events and wanting to be able to give back and share experiences, strength, and hope. And I'm wondering, is there a backstory to what got you into that?
Yeah. So in high school, I always said I wanted to be a math teacher. I went through the James Hill House High School. Whoop, whoop, shout out to the academics. The teacher prep program. I got a full scholarship to go to Southern for teaching. I always knew I wanted to be with kids. As a matter of fact, prior to that, my parents were in charge of like the youth church at church, like the youth services and all the Bible studies and stuff. So I was always assisting with them within that realm. Always wanted to be a teacher. Went to Southern. I got to Calculus 2 and I had an Asian teacher, and it was only a midterm and a final. And I couldn't really understand her. And in my midterm, I failed. I'm like, yeah, this is not going to work. So let me do elementary. So I did elementary education. But with elementary, you have to have a second degree, which was psychology. Ended up doing that. Loved psychology so much that I went just for psychology. And then as I was working on my master's for school counseling, because I'm like, I love children and I want to be a help, but I don't want to actually be a teacher.
Got you.
So I'm like, all right, let me do school counseling. So then now I haven't finished my master's yet, but now I feel like I am still counseling. Like I've had deep, in-depth conversations with the kids that we work with. We have a group chat. Like, if you need anything, let me know. I'm great. Have a great relationships with their parents. So I'm still doing that, but in a different way. And I'm mixing the art that I love with supporting the kids. So that's definitely the background in which why I love children and, working in community has been in me since I was a younger.
So being that you're a native from New Haven.
Yes, sir.
And, excuse me, Hill House, right?
Champions. Yeah.
so like share with us the impact, that these grants and these programs have on the youth, because you know what I'm saying, in the city of New Haven, us as leaders of community, we gotta make sure that we tapping into the kids to support them and make sure that, because they the next generation. So what's the impact like?
It's a huge impact for me. So I always, when I'm doing different lectures or I'm on different panels and stuff, I'm like, back in the day, Miss Piscatelli gave me the flute, and that's how I learned how to play the flute in school. Like it was embedded within our curriculum. You can definitely see the difference when the arts was taken out of the school system. And now it's like, we don't have anything to do, which is valid. we used to have the bowling alley in Hamden. We used to have the little basement parties at the barbershop back in the day, or the Elks. What was the young club that we used to always go to? And they were like serving Hawaiian punches. I forgot it. Anyway, we had things to do. So when you strip that completely away from these kids, they love to talk about the violence that's happening in the city, right, but they never highlight the great things that are happening in the city. So that was one of the reasons why, shout out to Mr. Worthy. He's the former principal of Hill House. He was like, I need this podcast in our school so we can highlight all the great things that we're doing. We have Yale University graduates that came from Hill House High School. Right. We have doctors. We have, prominent politicians that have came from this school. So we will need to highlight that. It's literally only 3% of the population at Hill House are considered the bad kids. But, what Hill House is, or what it has seen to be as, is, that's where all the bad kids go. Mm-hmm. And I felt the same way at one point. I'm from Hamden. I went to Hill House my sophomore year, and I was like, oh my God, I'm going to get in a fight every day. Oh my God, I'm going to get bullied. It was not like that at all. So I'm a true testament of Hill House family is truly house family. To this day, we all work in, communities, and we have people with different businesses and stuff. We support each other just like a family. So it's super important to make sure these resources get to these kids. When you think of the American Rescue Plan money, it's a bunch of money that got to this city and this state. What are we doing with it? How are we making sure that we're decreasing the violence because we're increasing the programs? Right. I get and it's weird because I get emails all the time like, listen, we have low submissions for this event. Can you spread the word? And I'm like, you should have gave it to me beforehand, not when it's about to be a deadline. So even telling different organizations and people that are doing the work, you have to build a relationship with the kids that you want. You don't just say, oh, listen, I got a program and all the kids are going to come flock in. If they don't know you, or if they don't have a connection with you, they're not inclined to come. I've been on the cultural equity tour, and we spoke to a bunch of students at Yale School of Art. And I'm like, just go into the spaces, go to the basketball games in New Hallville, and just be there. Just be present. Don't come with, oh, look, I have this for you. You're not giving them a handout, because that's one way that they'll be like, oh, no, you're not doing nothing for me. Attraction always works better than promotion, right? When I'm actually attracted to something, now I'm open to it and I'm intrinsically interested, right? I want to back up for a second because you mentioned just such a incredibly important point when you were saying, only 3% would be considered, quote unquote, the bad kids. And there's all this wonderful things going on and all these Yale graduates. And I think that is a microcosm to the world. Absolutely. Right. Where if you were to turn on the news, you would think that, evil runs this world and there's no good. Yeah. And I think in 2016, Dr. Steven Pinker, he wrote this book called Enlightenment Now, which was breaking down, and he was making the case for how the world has actually never been a better place than it is today, based on all these real world statistics. And he made this point where imagine if the news only came out once a month, what we would be talking about. Absolutely. And it would be all these amazing things that us as humans are accomplishing. And I think talking about having a podcast in a school that really highlights the positive, that would be game changing. And it sets this more realistic view of what's actually going on. Right. In real time too. And that's everything, right? Because right now we're all fighting for that, everything's fighting for our attention, right? Absolutely. And being able to bring that attention to the positive and the hope, it's so empowering. And is that podcast going on now in the schools? Or is absolutely, yep. AC's Pod, you guys can follow them. They're amazing kids. Shout out to Amy, Janae, Jose, and Sky. They are awesome. And then we have PodIn. Shout out to Adea Zakai, all the students there. PodIN New Haven. That's incredible. Yeah. That I can't begin to tell you. It's so awesome. It's like, oh, my babies, look at them just engaging. And they're so awesome. And they come up with their own, episodes and talking points. And I'm like, this is really impressive. Like, you always know that the kids have it, but all it takes is for someone to actually see it and, bring the resources and get it done with them. So that is a prime example of my next question. In what other ways can art empower a community? That's a good one. I think that it helps to bring people together. I've seen, deep, in-depth conversations be had because of a piece of art or, a showcase or, the history behind why this artist, did this or did that. And art tells a story, right? So if there's a 18-year-old young boy who's telling his story through his music, because music is poetry, it's just delivered in a different way, and you really sit there and you listen to those lyrics and you listen to the hurt and you listen to what that young man is going through, it makes you be more understanding, right? So next time when you see another 18-year-old boy, you have more empathy or you have more compassion to what they're going through. Because nobody knows what each other is going through, right? Like, we have to have grace. We have to have, empathy with one another. Like, you don't know if that beep when you're at the red light saying hurry up could be the last thing that ticks that person off. So art is not fluff. I'll say it's more calming. It calms everyone. Like, you very rarely see any art that makes someone angry. And even if it does make someone angry, all right, well, let's talk about it. What part of it makes you angry? It starts a conversation. I love the fact that art starts conversations. Even podcasts, they start conversations. There's been plenty of times where the kids have had an episode and then we're still sitting there an hour and a half later discussing what we were talking about and, going into in depth. And it's very, like I said, art is therapy. It's truly therapy.
I've never thought of it in that way. And now I'm beginning to reflect the idea that when you're engaged in either creating or observing, you have this level of immediate presence.
Absolutely.
Right? Where you're completely you're just ingrained in whatever is going on. That is fascinating to think about. And I think about, right, like we are big into sports and like when you're in that moment watching a game in crunch time or even not, right? Like you're just, I don't know. There's this level of, although it can be anxiety inducing, there's also this level of like serenity.
Absolutely.
And groundedness is a word that comes to mind. I haven't thought of it that way. That's a really unique point.
Yeah. It's like all the other stuff is on pause because you're in that moment, you're in that space.
Yeah.
This is what matters.
Time freezes.
Everything else, like,
absolutely.
I'm present.
Yeah, and another thing you just said I want to highlight, because it's been like the theme for me like the last few months is grace.
Yeah.
I was talking to somebody that I was like, I would like to say it like give grace, you know what I'm saying, if I'm not really giving myself grace. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've been messing up with that. I'd be hard. I'd be hard on myself.
We always are, right?
Yeah.
Especially, it's like I feel like I have to prove myself in any space that I'm in, whether it's a meeting where, especially when you talk about the Black community and being proper and, not portraying this or portraying that. It feels like you always have eyes on you.
Always.
Where do you guys think grace comes from?
I feel like he kind of said it, like, if you're not giving yourself grace, 9 times out of 10, you're not giving grace to others.
Right.
Once you get into that space of, I'm giving myself grace. All right, I didn't make that point on my to-do list, but it's okay. All right, I'm setting this time out for self-care. I'm not picking up my phone until 8:30 a.m. Like, I literally had to make myself do that because I have a 17-month-old. Lord, 17 years. Lord Jesus, no.
I'm about to say that. It was Back to the Future. We skipped a whole bunch.
I have a 17-month-old, and I'm like, I'm going to focus on him. It's not until I drop him off at daycare, then I'm going to start my work. There'll be times I wake up in the middle of the night, and I'm like, oh, okay, let me check an email real quick. At like 3 o'clock in the morning. I had to actually stop and say, listen, stop.
So grace comes from suffering. Grace comes from pain.
Absolutely.
I love it. And I love, there's a lyric in the song that I love where it talks about, give me scars to bring me grace. And it just made sense for the first time now.
Oh, yeah.
Where grace comes from the opposite reference point. And then recognizing, hey, this is what I can do to have that self-love and that compassion. Let me not pick up my phone at 3 a.m. Let me get that full night's sleep because I know what it feels like to do that and have that chaos.
Especially, and then when you pick, exactly. And then when you pick your phone up at 3 a.m., whatever it is, you're not happy after you put it down.
And you can't do
Absolutely
anything
not.
about it.
Yeah,
you can't
right.
do anything about it, right?
Nothing
And now-
changes.
and now you have
3
no
a.m. to
sleep.
9 a.m. Nothing
Right.
changes.
Yeah, and then you wake up and you're groggy, and it's like, ugh,
And now your
the
whole
day begins.
Yeah, your whole
And that
energy's
sets the
off.
tone when you're at that street light and you honking at the person because they're taking too long. It just sets the tone for everyone. So
That's why I love the one of the newer iPhone updates, like within the past like couple years, where you can set your phone to just like automatically go on airplane mode or whatever after a certain period
Do
of
not
time.
disturb or
I do
something.
that all night. I'm like, nope. I need my sleep. I need my 8
Absolutely.
hours.
I need the 8.
Yeah, it's important.
It's
It's
important.
important. We start feeling guilty when we don't do that.
I know.
Or we're not always accessible. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And that's like, we should not be always accessible. That's okay.
It's
that's
true.
healthy.
It's true.
You know
Like,
what I
it's
mean?
okay. That email will get read at some point. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing better with that. I still I still be like for example, I had a report to give you on Friday for like the fundraiser, and I didn't get it done by 2, and I was about to start everything out doing. I'm like, you know what? They'll be all right. As long as they get it in a couple days. He didn't even asked me for it.
We were good. You gave me the
number.
report the day before, so it was all good.
You knew the
It
numbers,
was
but I
all
had
good.
the actual,
Yeah.
you know what I mean, spreadsheet
Yeah.
out. And it's just like, he not even on me, and I'm on myself.
We on ourselves. Yeah. It's
Yeah,
true.
we gotta give it, and then just making sure that we give everybody else grace, because this whole cancel culture,
Oh, yeah.
you know what I'm saying? That
Instant
terrible.
satisfaction. I want it right now. Like, we've had a program where it's like, applications until such and such date, and like people are applying the next day. Like, did I get in? We said it's by this date. We'll make decisions by this date, and we stuck to it. Because if you said, all right, let me rush. No. You'll be okay.
Yeah.
Simmer down.
Yeah. Well, patience ain't gonna hurt nobody.
And there's always
Right.
going to be another one,
It's
right?
always going to be another one.
And the idea is too, if I say something's due by this time and then I move it, that's not a deadline then.
Right.
And when I start changing definitions in life, which is happening very frequently now, right? Chaos ensues.
Yeah.
And that is never good for humans in general, right? Like, we do good with predictability and order, not chaos and there's no rules, right? Like,
Yeah.
we need those deadlines.
Absolutely. And you have to know within yourself, all right, if I didn't make that deadline and I wasn't able to be a part of it because it was truly a deadline, okay, next time is something else for me. Right. Anything that is for me is going to happen, right? If I didn't make it, there's a reason why I didn't make that deadline. Maybe that program wasn't for me. Like, it'll be okay.
Yeah.
Like, life is going to do what it's going to do. Like, it's so funny. I thought about this a few days ago. I'm like, had I thought I was going to get married at 25 and have my first kid at 27, like I thought was going to be, I never would have started podcasting. Which led to me being in the position I am at the Arts Council to be able to do what I truly want to do, right? It's just like, life does what it's supposed to do.
Yeah, it brings in the question, like, does everything happen for a reason?
Right. Absolutely.
Right. And I think it's such a fascinating question. You can have so many pretty deep philosophical conversations around it. My only point I make is if everything if it doesn't happen for a reason, as humans, we are so good at giving it a reason that doesn't really matter.
Right.
Like,
because you're still,
even if it doesn't, we're still going to give it that reason, right?
Yeah.
Well, find a reason.
It's that
That's
feeling,
it, right?
Yeah, it's like that feeling to make you feel better. Like,
Yeah.
oh, this is why. Like, no.
Like, and I would think about that all the time after breaking my back, being like, hey, like, was there a reason for this suffering? Had I kept living the life I was living before I broke my back, yeah, it probably wouldn't have ended up well. I probably wouldn't have met the people and have done the things I've done and been touched by so many people in my life and vice versa.
Right.
So did it happen for a reason, or am I just finding all the reasons in my life today to support it happening? And I really don't know what the right answer is.
Right.
And part of me is like, dude, it doesn't really care. Like, you're not going to redo it. It's not going to happen again. Right. But it does make for a really interesting conversation.
Absolutely. But you're able, even if you have those feelings and you make those, reasons, you're not making yourself down or like, oh, dag, I should have did, thinking about it. Absolutely. But when it gets to the point where now it's affecting your day-to-day, interactions and being, that's when it's an issue.
That is when it's an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's perspective, right? Which is such an important. I was actually listening to someone talk about perspective today, and it's actually core beliefs in this idea that he was saying, and I'm going to paraphrase and quote him. So if anyone wants to get the actual expert, one of the most brilliant scientists, Andrew Huberman, go check that podcast out, Huberman Lab podcast. But what he was saying is someone kind of did this study where they would do all these things, kind of looking at how beliefs physiologically and psychologically affect people, right? So they gave one group of people basically like a milkshake, but told them that it was this really caloric or very healthy thing, and then they gave another group the same exact thing, right, but told them how bad it was for you, and then they checked actual levels of hunger in the body after, and all these things that kind of would tell like metabolism and things like that. I'm totally misquoting it, so please everyone check that out. But the idea is the people who thought that they were having healthy, their body physiologically responded in a healthier way, right? And it was the exact same thing. The people who thought it wasn't had the opposite effect. And you can see this with, he was making the thing, like it's not placebo, right? Because it's a real thing that they're taking.
Absolutely.
But it's the power of belief is so much greater than we really all know, right?
Oh, faith. Well, they say faith move mountains.
That's it.
Yeah, God will move mountains, but you better bring a shovel, right? Like,
yeah, you gotta put the work in.
You gotta put that work in.
Well, you gotta put the work in.
Faith without works is dead. That's literally what it says.
Literally.
You can have faith, but put some action behind it, and then then we'll go from there. Yeah, that's valid.
Yeah, when I was a kid, I didn't understand that because I would pray for something, and then it didn't happen, and then I'm like,
I prayed.
Yeah. Then my mother said, "Oh well, what'd you do about it?" And now I see like the faith just keeps me strong to push through with the work.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Because it gives you that, this is why I'm doing it. It's the why.
It's the yes.
And this is a beautiful segue into another question. So I was reading through kind of the guest questionnaire, and you made reference to focusing on the bigger picture and saying alignment always wins. The first thing I want to start with is the bigger picture. What does that actually mean? And how does one become aware and determine what the bigger picture is?
So for me, the bigger picture, honestly, is what can be said about me when I'm no longer here. Materialistic things, you can't bring all that stuff with you when you're 6 feet under. If you try to, you're going to pay a lot of money for that plot out at whatever graveyard you're at.
What you call it, mausoleum, whatever?
Right, exactly. Yeah. So what are you leaving? What legacy are you leaving when you're not here anymore? Are you a good person? Like literally being a good person can help in so many ways for others, for yourself. That's my bigger picture. Like what is the end point? At the end of the day, what can anyone say about what Rebekah has done and what she has accomplished and what she has done for others and has instilled in her children to make sure that they do the same thing when she's not here? My father did that. My father has, there's secrets that he has 6 feet under. People have came to his funeral and was like, there's stuff that I told him that I've never heard repeated. He's always been a good person. Always been a good person. So he has instilled that in me, and my mom has always been a good person as well. But he has instilled that within us, community, helping others before helping yourself. Not giving, this is another thing, not having your glass empty. If I'm empty, I can't give to others. That's right. So I have to give them the residue that's spilling over. And I learned that from my father. So I just want to do the same thing for my generation and building a legacy. Getting the Roth IRA account for my son. That was never a thing, right?
Not at all.
What is that? Like, we don't know what that is, but instilling that in him now. So then that way he can instill it so that generational wealth continues throughout our family and our legacy and being of help and service.
Yeah. Going back to what you mentioned right before that, that it makes me think of this, I forget who said it, but the great quote that like people will forget what you do, but they'll never forget how you made them feel. And that's something I bring to my visualization every morning to start my day, because that is, it just hits it's spot on, right?
Absolutely.
Like I'll never forget the people who, I'll forget what they did, but I'll never forget how some people made me feel and gave me hope when I had none, and were able to lift me up when I couldn't lift myself.
That's it.
I'll love them. Some of them I haven't talked to in years, but I'll love them so forever, deeply for the rest of my life.
Absolutely.
Appreciation for them.
Yeah. That's the bigger picture for me. When I'm gone, what what can be said about Rebekah Moore?
The legacy.
The legacy.
And to kind of dovetail off that, when you say alignment always wins, what does that mean?
So alignment for me, like just yesterday, we had a tabling opportunity over at New Haven Night Market, and there was a young kid that was like, "Oh, can I get a flashlight?" And I'm like, "Sure." I'm like, "You look like an artist." "Oh, maybe." I'm like, "Well, you know, these are the resources. This is what we do." And the mom came up and was like, "Yeah, like she's actually going to co-op. She sings, she draws." I'm like, "Well, this is perfect. You know, sign up. You're never too young." And she said, you know, she looked up and said, "God, thank you, because this is exactly what I was telling her. You know, it takes for someone else to say it." And I said alignment, and she went, "That's it." And I'm like, "You're never too young." And I was able to talk that into this young woman. And she actually emailed me. So we have, you know, her coming in. We do internships and stuff like that. But that's the alignment that I'm talking about. And where our table was, we were like literally like away from all the action. So imagine she didn't walk down that street, you know, or say, "Oh, look, this is flashlight is cool." So those are the different alignment pieces that makes me feel fulfilled. Because like I said, it's youth that I love. And the mother was like, you know, "Thank you." I'm like, alignment. Yeah. Me saying, "Never mind, I'm not going to take this right. I'm going to take this left." And then finding out that it was a real bad car accident. Right. You know, those type of things I really look at like, wow, like that's the alignment that I'm talking about. Like doing what you're supposed to and things happen in the way it's supposed to. Yeah.
So I just call that something different. Same thing though. I just call it different. I call that walking in your purpose.
That's it.
Well,
so it's just, same.
Yeah, same thing though. Yeah, same thing. But yeah, you. That's when you know.
It's never my plan. It's always, you know.
That's right.
God and a greater power's plan.
That's right.
So I'm just aligning with the plan that they have.
And you and kudos to you because you listening and you're aware.
Absolutely.
Because like it's always there, but if you distracted with other things and you don't see it, and you walk in a different path,
and there's a fog, you don't know where you're going.
Now you're wondering why life is so hard.
Yeah,
because you ain't living in your purpose.
That's it.
You know what I'm saying? Like
and trust me, you always end up being at your purpose. You're gonna get hit down 1,000 times before you actually say, "You know what? This has been my purpose." Sometimes we run away from our purposes too because we're nervous, we're scared, we don't think we can do it, and we always veer right back and align ourselves to what we were supposed to be doing.
That's right.
From the first place.
Mm-hmm.
That's why having that kid mentality throughout life is so important, right? Like, not afraid to try new things, super curious. Like at some point, once that prefrontal cortex starts to develop, we lose that. And it starts becoming about so much about safety and messing up and not taking the chances, right?
That's why they say it's so important to teach kids how to swim at an early age. They start at like 6 months because they're not scared of the water at all.
Yeah.
You know.
And I'm so scared.
So scared.
Really?
What?
He's so
you don't
scared.
Know how to swim?
Hell nah.
Really?
He thinks he floats. It's the belief, right?
Absolutely.
Like
I do float.
We've tried. Yeah, I know you float.
Good.
You know why I know you float? Because my legs don't work and I float.
Right.
So I know you float.
Yeah. That float. And I be holding on to the side of the pool like this, head up. But I'm floating a little bit.
Yeah.
I can't swim for shit.
You just don't have the belief
learn.
yet. You just need the belief.
Or if you get in that fight or flight moment where you have to learn how to swim, you end up learning how to swim.
I've been there and I almost died.
Or taking everyone down around you. One or the other. Right. Either you float or you sink and you bring everyone else down.
Yeah, somebody jumped in when I was drowning. I put.
Oh my gosh. There's actually a number of people that don't know how to swim as adults.
And I'm petrified.
You'll be surprised.
Oh no, it's a gang of us.
Yeah,
it's a. You know what I mean, it's
you
a
should
committee.
go to classes.
I need to. to. And you know what's crazy? I still jump on jet skis. Yeah, it's crazy.
Right. I'm thinking to myself like, seriously.
Yeah, life jacket. I fell off one time and then but I can't move.
Yeah.
You know
somebody else has to come and get you.
Yeah. Dude was mad. We was in Miami. Dude got tight, like the instructor dude, because I jumped up back of my homies. Yeah, because he came to get me. I jumped on the back of his. This one out there, I'm like, man, we going back.
Yeah,
so
you can get that jet ski.
Yeah. I'm done. Like, I can't help you. So, hey, he was tight. Word is ball. Shout out to Miami guys. Yeah.
Shout out to Miami.
Word, Dade.
Great place to go.
What? Dade Kizzy.
Yeah.
My boy.
Art Basel is out there too.
Yeah.
So we talking about art.
What's the All right, bet. What's that section in Miami? What is where our basil at?
It's
a section where all the like spray paint.
Yeah.
Murals.
Vibes. Art is all around.
Oh, it's so dope down there.
Yeah.
Miami is fire for that. I forgot the name. That's great. Matter of fact,
Google it. Shout out to Google.
So while you're doing that,
alignment is dope.
Well, if you were to give kind of advice or encouragement to someone who was curious or interested in getting into some form of art, but had that kind of self-reservation,
the hesitancy,
what would you say?
Never limit yourself from what you can do. And I think with that hesitancy, back in the day, we were always told, get a good job with good benefits. So then when you're 70 years old, then you can enjoy life, right? So that hesitancy has been ingrained in us from generations to generations. So within my position, I have those photographers and those dancers go to career fairs because it's not just a firefighter, a teacher, or a lawyer that's going to be successful. And putting it in the faces of those who may be hesitant, letting them see you can be successful and live a successful life and actually enjoy what you're doing and not doing it just because it's a good job, quote unquote. So never limit yourself from what you can do. You actually can do more than what you think you can do. If we always were in the idea of what we think we can do versus what we can actually do, we will all always be stagnant.
Mm-hmm. That is definitely a fact, and a little teaser coming out. We'll be soon dropping the Leaders and Readers segment to the podcast in our first book, 10X by Grant Cardone, and he talks about that, right? Like, you want to 10X whatever you think your goal is, shoot 10 times bigger.
Absolutely.
And I think there's so much, I look at that in my life where setting goals too small, it's almost not even a goal, right? Because
you'll succeed in it
very quickly, right? And then I'm not really expanding any part of self-growth. Like if I can use my current skills to accomplish something, I'm probably doing it wrong.
Absolutely.
Right? I want to do something that's going to really require me to expand my comfort zone, push me, make me really scared and uncomfortable, utilize supports, reach out to other people who have done it before me so they can teach me. That's where I want to be.
Absolutely. They always say you should never be the most powerful person in the room. That means you've outgrown that room. Sit me in a room with people that know more than me so that I can learn from them. And the great thing about this generation coming up, they're not as afraid as we think they are. Like I seen one school, like they had a walkout because they didn't like how administration was moving. And I'm like, we would have never done that.
At all.
Because we're always so scared, like, oh, my mother's going to kill me. Da-da-da. This generation is very fearless. And I admire that about them. Like, you feel some type of way about something, and they say it. You say it with respect. You say it with, you know what you're saying. You can't just sit there and talk anything. But they are really, they lit. Yeah. Like it took me I'm in my 30s to actually get to that point of not being afraid of who I am, knowing who I am, saying what I mean and meaning what I say, and they're doing that now. So
yeah,
kudos to them.
Courageous.
Yeah. Cause I'm like, oh, y'all did what? Oh yeah, we walked out. We had a walkout and we protest. Impressive.
Right. Yeah, that wasn't even a thought.
No, right. And we might talk junk, but that's about the least we're gonna do, right?
Yeah, I think with anything, as long as you know why you're doing what you're doing, and also equally important, like it's got to be justified.
Absolutely.
Right? Like we're just walking out over nonsense. Then I would argue that that's a pretty terrible thing because it goes against order. But if it's something truly meaningful and you can clearly express what you're hoping to get in return, then that's beauty, right? Like that is how we progress the world forward. That is how we go. We zig when everyone else is zagging.
That's it.
But I do think those indicators do need to certainly be in line for that too.
Absolutely. And administration after sat with the students and said, okay, like, what can we do? Absolutely. Like I said, we had a meeting with Yale School of Art, and they're like, how can we help the community? I'm like, y'all run Yale. If all of you said we're not paying our tuition anymore, guess what? There is no Yale. So you can go to your student council and whoever and say, listen, we want to donate 20 hours of this art studio for a artist within the community to come to the Yale campus and use it. We demand this. If you say it, it's going to get it's going to get done. So never feel like you can't say what you want, and never limit yourself in what you can do. You always, like you said, you always can go 10 times higher. Even in the corporate world with salaries and stuff, never be afraid.
Yeah, to ask.
Go the highest.
Yeah.
What are they going to say? Oh, we don't have it. All right, then what do you have?
Me in the middle.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's why I like that Connecticut actually changed the law where you have to put the salary on the application before people apply. Because if you don't, say a woman comes in, they always knock it down 10, 20,000 lower.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
So if you put it up front.
Yeah, you got
it. The application said, and actually I want 5 more on top of that.
Yeah, give me that. Mm-hmm. I need that.
I deserve that. What's the worst that can happen?
Yeah.
If it's in alignment and it's what you're supposed to have, you're going to get it.
Yeah. If not, then... Right. I always say if not, then their loss.
That's it.
That's it.
I'm always going to have a job.
Word.
I'm always going to be good.
Yeah.
No matter if I'm sitting outside selling waters for $1, I'm always going to be good.
It's a hustle.
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
The work ethic.
Yeah, and vision and experiences and reference points, right? I think because I'm very confident in my abilities to do that as well. But I also there's plenty of times in my life where I wasn't, right?
Absolutely.
But now I have a few more reference points, which has built some confidence. Mm-hmm. So
experience always helps.
Is there anything that you can speak to more on that? Was that something that was always that you felt was very innate for you, or did you have to learn to be able to have that level of confidence and knowing that it's going to work out?
It's so funny because I've always been like that super confident person. Like nobody's going to ever tell me no. I've always been the child that always questioned my mom and my dad, like, well, why? Well, that doesn't make sense because da-da-da-da. And my father used to always say, you know what, you need to be a lawyer. Like, I've always been that kid. I've always been curious. I always wanted to know, like, we'll make it make sense. Like, it needs to make sense for me. If it makes sense, then I say, okay, cool. So that's just always been in me. But I've had my moments of, well, I don't know. I'm not sure. It had to take those times of me saying, I don't know, I'm not sure, for it to actually be exactly what I said, to be like, you know what? I need to step into what I am. Even if I am wrong, all right, let's make that a learning experience and not like a failure.
Do you have a process when you're not sure? Like, do you have these steps? Like, is it a pros and cons? Is it what's your inner process?
Listen, I'm a listy girl. So yes, definitely pros and cons. And I am not afraid to ask. Like, if I want to know something, I'm going to find out. I've always been a person, like, I hate excuses or, oh, well, I don't know. So let's find out. Google is like right at our fingertips.
For sure.
Closed mouth don't get fed.
That's
Cheat
it.
code to life. If you've thought it, someone else has thought it too, of the 8 billion people in this world, and likely someone's acted on it. So let me find what they did and let me copy it. Right.
All it takes is an
innovate.
idea. And if you don't know something, ask. Like, I'm very prideful. It took a while for me to get to that point of, let me just ask. There's a lot of people out here with a lot of knowledge that's giving out free game. Mm-hmm. But if you don't ask, you'll never know. And if I'm not going to ask, I'm at least search for it. There's books. There's the websites. I'm going to search for it. I'm the type of person, I'm going to search first. And then if I can't get it, I'll ask.
Yeah.
But it's going to get done by any means necessary. One or the other, I'm going to get it done.
Yeah. And I got to say that, like, books are the easiest way to acquire knowledge. When someone dedicates their entire life to a specific topic, and then they take all of their life knowledge and put it into typically 100 to 500 page book, condensed with all of everything that you can inject directly into your brain. Cheat code to life.
It's literally the cheat code to life. Get those books from those millionaires and those billionaires. That's and right. Literally, I was watching Shark Tank. and there was a guy up there who already was making millions off of his product, and they were like, "You already have the playbook. Sell this product because you're at a high now, but it'll eventually go. Sell this, and you'll be good because you have the playbook. It don't matter what the business is. You'll have the playbook. You'll be good for life." And they said, as soon as you know the playbook, as soon as you know the game plan, you're good.
But I focus so much on that same equation, but for human social functioning, right? Just like there's the playbook to making money and getting yours, right? There's also the playbook to feeling well and living a really great life. And I think in life is filled with equations, and everything fits, right? Everything fits so perfectly in this world. And it's about uncovering what that equation is and then doing it a day at a time.
That's it.
24 hours, do that playbook, wake up the next day and do it again. And you're going to have more ups than downs.
And this is why I always loved math, because I'm like, at the end of the day, it's only one right answer. English, it's based off of the person reading it and what they consider this is good or this is not. Math is literally one answer. No matter how you get to it, it's still one answer.
So we've been going for almost the hour. Do you have any more questions, Kev?
Nah, shout out to you though for wanting to be a math teacher.
Yeah, I know, right? Everybody was like, "Oh my God, I hate math." I love math.
I love math too.
And it's very rare that you see that people like it. But that one calculus teacher, I'm like, this ain't gonna work.
See, it wasn't calculus for me. It was I was never trying to be a teacher.
Yeah.
But business major.
Oh.
So I was at Gateway. And I had to you know how everybody got to take stats?
Yeah.
I remember you were taking stats.
Oh yeah.
Everybody got to take stats. So I took stats, but then for the business major, I had to take business stats.
Oh.
So instead of me taking business stats, I took regular stats.
Oh.
I passed it. Then when I went to go get my bachelor's, it was like, nah, you got to take business stats. So I was tight.
I know you was. Macro and microeconomics, I did really well in those classes.
Me too.
My teacher was like, "You should change your major." I'm like, maybe.
I do like economics a lot. It makes sense.
It makes sense.
It makes sense.
Yeah, statistics is an important one because to have any true understanding of what's real and what's not real, statistics is so vital. So that was one that back years ago when I took it, I probably didn't give it as much energy, but I've followed up since and had motivation to actually have a better understanding because it is so.
Wait.
It's so important in determining.
Hold on. Wait, you made me the only person that I ever heard that said they went back to stats?
Yeah, just because in science there's so much
stats gave me PTSD.
It's so important in being able to determine truth and understand what is valid and what's not. So it was something that I was self-motivated to kind of have an understanding, and I still but it's very, very surface level, right? Like I talk to people for a living. That is the first and most important thing in my life. So 90% of my research and development is about how can I be more effective at communicating ideas and helping empower people.
Nice.
But in the background, I think it is important also to be able to really understand those modalities, to have a base knowledge of how do I determine if something is valid and reliable, right?
Absolutely.
Data and all that good
stuff. Impressive.
But with all of that said, we'd like to ask every guest one final question on the Falling Up podcast. And that is, we're all about turning obstacles into opportunities and helping people truly turn poison into medicine. So if you were talking to someone who had just really fallen down and was in this dark spot, and you had to give them one word of encouragement, and it can be more than actually one word, but something empowering to help lift their spirits or help them have the strength to get out of the hole, what would you tell them?
You're still here for a reason. And it's so funny because I was watching 2020. Was it last night or the other night? And there was a woman who, got murdered, and the son actually, the guy tried to kill the son too, but he survived. And now at 33 years old, he's like, there's a reason why I'm here. Like, why am I here? You're here for a reason. If you weren't supposed to be here, you wouldn't be here. but you're here for a reason. So let's find out what that reason is.
Get into alignment.
That's it. You got to get in. Once you really channel and you do that self-care and you really start meditating, you'll find out why you're still here, and your reasoning for still being here. And that's a real thing.
100%.
So where can our listeners find you? How can they help out? How can they get involved? What is
I can tap in? Yeah,
absolutely. If you want to tap into all the resources that the Arts Council has, newhavenarts.org. My personal Instagram is Bekeasy, BEKEASYYY. It was just one Y, but then my page got hacked. So, and yeah, you can follow me. I'm super available. Same for Twitter as well. I'm on there. And I'm just a cool person that, I'm around. Let me know. I'm here. Like I said, I'm just here to help others. And I think this position, being a program director for the Arts Council, has really helped me be able to do that and touch a lot of lives and touch a lot of people.
Awesome.
Well, we appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us.
I'm so excited.
Yes.
This was refreshing.
Likewise.
Yeah.
Amazing conversation.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in.
Toodles.
Falling Up Podcast.